Hi, I'm Marni Battista, and welcome to Design Your Next Chapter After 40: How to Ditch the Grind and Reinvent Your Life in 90 Days. So, this is for you if you're a successful woman over 40 who wants to ditch the damn grind. You're sick of the hustle and you want to reinvent your life so that every day feels like you're on a vacation, right? So that your life feels like it's an expression of who you really are at the core, so that you feel like you're living your best life on your terms right now. Whether that's creating a thriving, healthy romantic relationship, or starting a new business, or becoming a digital nomad, or retiring abroad. So, the process that we use to create that is what we call the reinvent method. And I want to introduce it to you here on this training today. And it's helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women across the globe actually transform their lives for the better without needing years and years and years of therapy. So let me give you some examples of what this looks like my client Marie. So Marie was a single mom by choice. She also was running a pretty big company on her own in Southern California. And she was juggling the demands of running that business, being a caretaker for her parents, as well as meeting the demands of having a toddler all on her own. And she was so entrenched in the daily grind and the hustle that the mere thought of a romance seemed like a luxury she absolutely could not afford. And her life was just basically a cycle of work and caretaking. And she didn't have room for really anything else. That is until she started working with me and really implemented the reinvent method. And she found a lot of new clarity. And what she did as a result of that was she streamlined her business and made it actually smaller, but more profitable and more impactful. She cut back on unnecessary expenses. She started earning more money than she had ever imagined possible. And as her life started to open up, she actually started dating and she found love, which is so beautiful and amazing. And it wasn't because she like magically created more time or had some productivity hack or found the exact right app. What happened was that she learned how to give more of herself and be more open and able to creating that life that she really wanted on her terms. My other client, Jill, different problem. She was married for 26 years. In her 60s, husband walked down the stairway and basically said, I want a divorce. And that was a huge, huge shift that she had to make in her identity from mom and wife of 26 years to a mom who's suddenly single. Right. And so we actually really implemented this process pretty quickly. And within 2 months, she felt like a completely new person. She had moved on with her life. She felt really confident about it. Even when her ex-husband was kind of like throwing out, maybe we should get back together, she was like, heck no, I've moved on. And she actually met an amazing guy within a couple of months, and they're still together years later. My other client, Anya, was stuck in the corporate grind in her 40s. Her health suffered. She had no time for relationship. She was constantly being criticized at work. She felt like no matter what she did, it was never enough. Um, and now she is actually free from that corporate grind. And she created her own business. She created a passive income strategy, and she's engaged. So, all of that happened just from employing this reinvent method. So, here's the thing. Um, Most of the time, um, we believe we have a certain problem in our life and that the circumstances tie us back so that we can't create the life that we really, really want. And I totally get that. Um, I was divorced after 17 years. I was a nursery school teacher, and I knew that that really wasn't what I was meant to do while I loved it. And I ended up being able to create this very successful um, multi-million dollar business in the dating industry as a coach. And it got really big. And that was great. More money, more security. However, I was on the damn hamster wheel. It was like I never could find that happiness or that satisfaction. And every time I would meet a goal or have some success, I still felt like it wasn't enough. I had this huge team, I had a big payroll, and I was very, very much disconnected and unhappy to the extent that parts of me didn't even realize that because I just kept trying to achieve the next bigger goal. It was like I was living someone else's best life, but it absolutely 100% was not mine. However, I didn't listen to those whispers of the universe, so to speak. But then the universe screamed. And just before lockdown, when everyone was hoarding toilet paper, I had a really traumatic ski accident. You can see on the slide, there I was, best ski day with my girlfriend, ending up being taken down the mountain in a toboggan, praying, seeing, can I feel my toes? Can I feel my toes? Um, and it took me 9 weeks of complete stillness. And it was during that time when I couldn't move, that I realized that that mess was a message. And that was that it was time to actually reinvent and rebuild my life. And that life is short and precious, and that it was time to start building on my own terms because it was really clear to me that living for vacation, the weekends, those were the only times I really felt at peace, that I felt alive, that I felt like I was being myself. And so I knew that it had to change because what had happened was I had built this life, and maybe you can relate to this, where it feels like a game of Jenga, right? You've built that block tower. And if you move one piece, right? If you change one thing, if you don't keep the machine running, it'll all crumble. And that feels so heavy and so hard. And it's not living a life of meaning and fulfillment and joy, which is why I created and have been living by the power of the reinvention method. And that is to actually go through this process that I'm going to teach you shortly with phases that has allowed me to feel like I am living my best life. And as we get to the end, I'm going to tell you exactly what that looks like and what it's looked like over the last 4 years. So let's dig into the 3 pillars of the reinvent method. So the first piece is that you have to reveal. And reveal is this. And this is a news flash, so write this one down. The problem you think you have is probably not the real problem. For me, I thought if I could keep working harder or figure out what that one thing was that was going to solve all my problems in business or bring in that next level of revenue, then I would be happy. But that really wasn't the case at all. I thought that if I did that, everything would be perfect because then I would be successful and then I would be blissed out. The harder I worked, the more stressed and frustrated I got. I started to fill the hole in my soul, so to speak, with acquiring material things like buying designer clothes, going on lavish vacations. And all that happened was that I felt more frustrated and that the hole in my soul was getting bigger and I was getting less and less fulfilled in my life. I wasn't spending time with the things that mattered the most to me. And I knew something was missing, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Revealing, though, is about uncovering that real problem that's holding you back. Instead of trying to fix yourself from the outside in, fixing that hole in your soul with stuff or hacks or books or podcasts or just powering through and surviving. That's not the way it is, right? The more you feel like you are running your life on a never ending hamster wheel, feeling stuck and unfulfilled, the further away you are from actually solving the problem, right? And here's the thing, and this is big. The life you have right now, today, wherever you're watching this, um, it's simply an accumulation of the choices that you've made, one decision at a time over the duration of your lifetime, right? So, in order to create a new life, you have to take responsibility for all of those choices and dare to live and say, I claim, I want, I desire an authentic life that's lived on my terms, because life is short. And most of you who are watching this have less birthdays ahead than you do behind, right? So, how do you reveal? Well, you have to actually identify what is that real problem. And that unconscious problem is like 10%, right? It's the 10% that you can't see, because this part of your brain called the amygdala, which is, think of it like a smoke detector, right? It's an alarm system. And it is trying to keep that Jenga tower in place. And so, unless you have the strategies, which I'm going to show you in a minute, to calm that amygdala down enough to actually see what's hidden behind there in that 10%, you will never actually know what the problem is. And you'll keep working harder trying to solve the wrong problem, because you cannot see the label from inside the damn jar. So, how do you reveal? Well, here's the great news. You might have that amygdala that has the smoke detector on high alert, but your brain has also got neuroplasticity, which means that you can reprogram and rewire your brain finally and for the last time. And this can happen in a matter of weeks. It does not take years and years of therapy, right? You just need a customized, integrated approach with the exact right combination of a few things. Number one is you have to learn how to regulate your nervous system. You need to learn how to turn off the smoke detector so that the amygdala calms down. We can actually see what is the real problem. What is that unconscious 10% that's actually holding you back? The other piece is you need to create an actual spiritual connection with the essence of who you are, the part of you, your soul, that's unpatterned, unprogrammed, unblocked, has no limitation. That is where your enoughness lies. That is where your magic lies, your intuition, your best ideas, your brilliance, your joy. You have to learn how to access that so that you can start designing from that place. Finally, you need to stop working harder at what's not working, which is cluttering your brain with a lot of questions that are really information, knowledge. As high achieving, successful people, our brain automatically defaults to problem solving, and we ask a lot of questions that are knowledge based. But in this method, in this reveal phase, we switch and flip the paradigm, and we start asking what I call wisdom seeking questions, which are questions that will allow you to tap into the truth so that you can finally reveal what it is that's really stuck, because we've calmed down that nervous system. That's where the magic and the answers lie. And then finally, this piece, which is, whether you know it or not, think of it like a Marvel movie, right? Or a DC Comics movie, where you are in a universe. And in the universe where you're living right now, it has been completely pre-programmed by culture, society, right? There are all these shoulds. There is a life that we're living that's not been designed for us or by us. It's been designed by external influences, teachers, parents, mentors, bosses, all the Instagram, right? Social media, all of those things, right? And so what we need to do is we need to dismantle all of those shoulds and question all those assumptions so that we have a completely blank slate. When you do this, you are able to actually see the truth. When you go through this first phase, reveal, you'll know the essence of who you really, really are at a deep core level. Oh, so beautiful. You'll really know what truly makes you happy. I call it what blows your hair back. You'll understand deeply your core motivation so that you are spiritually aligned, right? Like when we are living a life according to what truly motivates us in a way that feels whole and powerful, from that holistic place, we can then begin to piece together your ideal life, which is so exciting. The next pillar or phase of this reinvent method is the release phase, which is really, really important because once you know the problem, the real problem, and you have architected the rules and the assumptions and the shoulds in your world, and you have calmed down your nervous system and you know what the real belief is, and you're asking all these wisdom questions, well, what the heck do you do with it? Well, you have to release, right? We have to let go of the beliefs and the behaviors that are actually holding us back in this identity, in this world, in this life that feels like we are surviving, not thriving. Here's what you need to know. All of these patterns, all of these beliefs, they're created, at earlier times in our life. And while therapy is super helpful for uncovering those things and connecting the dots and talking it out, it does not actually release or rewire your brain and create a new way of being in your life, right? It doesn't help you do it in a lasting way, which is necessary for complete reinvention of your life. So what happens is that when you are operating in the old way, right, you are completely living your life directed by, fueled by your fear of what will happen, what won't happen, what you get, what you don't get, what could happen, right? That fear is really, really powerful and is connected to the other pieces, which is that we're living a life of obligation, right? A lot of those rules are telling us what we can and can't do, what we should and shouldn't do, and also guilt, right? Some of you are even struggling with you should be happy with what you have, right? Or caretaking for other people, right? And feeling guilty when you look at I want to do this my way, or I want to really act from a place where my needs are super important, right? And that I matter. So when you are in this release phase, we have to release, we have to remove, we have to break down the system where you're operating from fear, obligation, and guilt, because all those things come together to create these default behaviors, right? And those default behaviors really make our life hard, right? Um, they become what I call compulsive automatic reactions, right? They are default. Because remember, if you go back to the reveal phase, right, your amygdala is on high alert. We're keeping that Jenga tower together. And so we're not really responding. We're just reacting, and they're compulsive and they're automatic, right? And some of those behaviors take us further away from the life that we want, the connection, the peace, the joy, the fun, right? The fulfillment. Things like defensiveness, seeking validation externally. When we are operating in this old way and we don't feel good and we don't feel enough, and we're operating from our compulsive automatic reactions, the only way we feel good or feel enough or feel joy is when we win. And those things are typically external, right? Like the guy you like asked you out on a second date, or the deal that you have at work goes through, or you get a good job from your boss. And when you are constantly needing external validation to feel joy, to feel happy, to feel enough, you are on a constant roller coaster of emotion, waiting for the external validation to live your life. And that sucks. So you need to get rid of that, right? And then the other behavior that I see my clients struggling with when they come in is excessive caretaking, right? That automatic reaction where my job is to make everyone else happy. And in the old paradigm, your needs are more important than mine. And so we need to release these compulsive automatic reactions so that we can actually be free and in freedom. And when we come into our life that we create that's the blank slate, we're doing it from a place from our most whole, highest enough self, where we can actually fill ourselves up and create constantly and consistently from that place, which is kind of amazing. So, how do you start the release process? Well, this is just one hack that I wanted to share with you. And it's a really important piece. A lot of people do parts work. If you've ever heard of that, where you're talking to or getting connected to like an emotional younger part of yourself that had a trauma or negative experience. And that's how a lot of coaches will try to rewire your brain. But what I do is a multi level process that includes like polarity, right? So the affirm part, the A, is that yes, you want to connect to the part of you that has this whole belief or where that old belief was formed, like the moment that pathway, those neurons fired together and created that rule, right? So you want to get in there, and rather than just say, yeah, it's there, you actually want to affirm that it's happening. There is a part of you that is sad, that is scared, that is hurt. And rather than avoiding that or rationalizing or trying to pretend that it didn't happen or shaming yourself because you still feel crappy when you have those automatic compulsive reactions, you want to actually go into that space and you want to give love and affirmation to that part of you. Words like, I know, that really hurt. That was really hard, right? So that's a really important piece and most often overlooked. Then in the confirm, the C part of the ACE conversation, this is where the polarity comes in, right? Where you say, yes, this part, right? The sad part, the scared part, the little part. This is true. And I, as an adult, want to confirm it makes perfect sense. Like it is totally normal and okay that you feel this way in this moment, right? When you're triggered. And you're using this tool in a moment when you are having one of those automatic compulsive reactions, when you're triggered. This confirm allows you to just be like, oh my God, parts of me are scared and sad, and parts of me are an adult, and confirm that, yes, it makes perfect sense. But then when we get into the third part of this, the E, that's where you educate. And that's where you get to actually make a conscious choice to turn toward, to lean in the part of you that will actually take you forward in your life, right? The part of you that is the adult, the part of you where the amygdala, where the fear, the obligation, and the guilt is no longer driving your life, right? Those compulsive behaviors. So the ACE conversation on repeat in real time will actually desensitize those old patterns and start to create new neural pathways of the new identity, which is what we're going to talk about in the third phase. The third phase is called reinvention, which is so awesome. And here's why we want to reinvent, because how you define yourself impacts what you do and how you do it, right? So when we're operating in the old identity, then we are living in the fog, fear, obligation, guilt in the car, right? Compulsive automatic reactions. And as we release that, we have a new identity, right? It's a new who. It's how I think about myself in who I really am right now, today, at the core, right? At that unpatterned, unblocked, spiritual, delicious, soulful you. And so once we have this new identity, we need to create momentum towards you installing that into your brain, right? This new identity. What happens often is you'll go to a workshop or you'll work with a coach or go to an event, you'll feel really great. You'll touch that new identity. But then you go out of that container and all those defaults come back in because there's old momentum with the old identity, right? So in the reinvention method in rejuvenate, we have to stall and stop the momentum of the old identity, and then we start to get into action and create momentum for the new identity and the new life where you feel like your life is a vacation, right? And so the way we do that is we get clarity on what does your ideal life look like when you're in flow and in freedom and connected to your passion 24/7. And the way that we do that is that we ideate and we experiment, right? And that looks like coming up with different alternatives that are outside the realm of what we already know of what our life could look like. And then we do experiments, because here's the thing: the human brain is not very good at predicting what will make us happy. And so rather than just chuck it all, right, or do something drastic, we take these baby steps in the process of experimentation And that's really fun. And then we reflect and then we continue to refine and polish so that we enjoy the journey along the way. All of these things teach you new skills like setting boundaries, more empowered communication, being a better leader, being a better parent, being a better lover, meeting your man, whatever it is, right? And now you are a creator of your life. There is no more default. There's no more waiting, living life with the conditions or the circumstances. You are a creator of your life, and that is empowering, that is fulfilling. And at the end of your life, you will know you have led a meaningful life lived on your terms, which is amazing. So let me give you some examples. So one of the really fun exercises we do in this process is we create these versions of what life could look like. And then we come up with these fictitious job titles. And that's really super fun. And some of those even turn into real things. So let me give you a couple of examples. So Laura, she had a vision of living in France. She was partially retired. She wanted to retire. She wanted to live in France. So she did a small experiment locally, getting immersed in a French community at a French language school. And she loved it. And from there, after some more iteration and ideation, she found a immersion program in France. So she went there. She chose a region that she was really curious about that met a lot of the negotiables, non-negotiables of her ideal life. And she went and lived there for 6 weeks. And when she came back, she got feedback. And that was that I don't think I want to live in France full time, but I do want to explore living there part time. And also, by the way, I think I want to actually work and do projects that are really fun, that are connected to things that I'm passionate about. Super, super awesome, right? So now she is exploring that. She has expanded her experience at the French school where she's now an active part of the community and researching new places she wants to explore and experiment in France to ultimately either make her part-time home base or just a very lovely, juicy place where she goes and visits on vacation for longer and longer periods of time as her life evolves. Super, super fun. Nancy was working in corporate in the grind, right? Really big company. And she was getting her butt kicked. Her health was declining. She gained weight. She had no time to date. But once she started getting clear on her new identity and started creating momentum, she realized she was over functioning for everyone. That caused her to be in this constant mode of overworking, working on the weekends, working at night, not eating lunch, not having time to work out or date. Once she got in the new identity, she started to set boundaries with her colleagues, with her coworkers. And she developed into a more empowered leader, and her boss actually noticed. And what's really cool is even though there were budget cuts, she actually got more team. Her teammates started performing better. And now she only works 4 days a week and she never works on the weekend. She's lost weight, she's dating, and she is creating a financial plan to explore retiring in Europe, right? She's enjoying the journey, not waiting just for the end of her work life to start living the life that she really, really loves. And then finally, I want to tell you about Andrea. Andrea was getting close to retirement. And one of her ideas was that she knew that when she retired, she didn't really want to just stop working, but she didn't really know what she was capable of or what she would love because she'd done this one job for 40 years. So, one of the experiments that she did was she got involved in her professional organization. And as a result of that experiment, she was able to do another experiment in which she was an adjunct professor teaching a class at a college in her chosen field. She loved it. She got invited back. So now that idea of what will she do now in retirement is getting more clear. Meanwhile, her partner and her are also discovering and exploring and experimenting. Where do they want to live? Where does she want to do this? So now rather than being in fear about retirement or not having a plan, she is so excited and enjoying this part of her life and having so much fun along the way. For me, my vision, right? I wanted to explore different kinds of lifestyles that really align with my soul. And I knew that the version of me that was living in Los Angeles was no longer me, right? So my husband and I sold our house after 22 2 years, 26 total in Los Angeles. We traveled around the world, which included a year in an RV. I streamlined my business so that I could work on my time frame wherever I want with clients that I love. I stopped blaming my husband for my unhappiness. And I started to discover that the real problem that I thought I had was I was just afraid of change. So now we have been able to make our relationship more juicy, better. We have more connection. And as I record this, I am looking out the window at the beautiful mountains in Colorado, which is one of our experiments we're investigating right now about where do we want to live and how do we want to do our life. So, if you resonated with any of this training and you are excited and ready to apply the reinvent method in your life, then it's really simple. All you have to do is DM me the word reinvent, and you can find me on Facebook at Marni Battista or on Instagram, Marni Battista _. I'm sure there'll be a link here somewhere. Or if you're old fashioned, you can just email me at vip@datingwithdignity.com. And so I hope this was inspiring. I hope that you got some good techniques out of it. And if you feel like you are ready to see what I can do to help you reinvent your life, reach out. I'm so honored to be able to give you this information, give you hope, and show you that you can live life on your terms. Mwah.